Yo, what's up, YouTube? Back with my first video in a very small series because a very small amount of teams, I believe, have the opportunity to be bad next season and automatically just become Super Bowl contenders. But you already know. Let's start with the Arizona Cardinals. So, are the Arizona Cardinals Super Bowl bounds? Well, this is the case and why. They will appear and win their first Super Bowl with Kyler Murray at QB. So, about this defense was not the best in the league last year. They only had two Pro Bowlers on their entire team, and they both came from their defense. One being Chandler Jones, linebacker. He was a monster, absolute monster. He had the second most sacks in the NFL with 15, and was an overall great force for the Arizona Cardinals defense. And also they had Buda Baker, made the Pro Bowl, safety, and he was just very, very consistent on defense with the second most tackles in the NFL with 92. Great for the Cardinals defense. But the thing about this is they got a steal in the draft with Isaiah Simmons at number 8 overall pick, linebacker. You already know this dude's going to start for the defense, and I believe he's going to make an immediate impact and boost this defense overall, making it probably a lot better than it was last year. I wouldn't say it's going to be like amazing like Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Buffalo, but this defense has a chance to get a lot better. Obviously, Patrick Peterson's also on their defense. He's staying with them, and this team is obviously going to have a great season on defense next year. I expect a lot of sacks, a lot of turnovers, and I think this team's defense is going to be 10 times better than it was last year. Other great players on this defense, including Byron Murphy and Chandler Jones, Jordan Hicks, Jalen Thompson, Devin Kennard, Corey Peters, Jordan Phillips, Zach Allen, all the main. But like I said, the ones I've listed before, they're going to have great years, I believe. And it especially makes sense because of this team's schedule, but I'll get into that after I talk about the special teams. Yes, the special teams. So I only say this because of their kick returner. So Andy Isabella. I'm not saying this dude's an absolute monster of a wide receiver, but I saw this dude in the preseason and as a kick returner last year, and this dude is absolutely one of the fastest kids I've seen in my life. He's not a kid, but absolutely one of the fastest NFL players in the league. And he's just, once he gets that ball for a kick return, you already know he's scoring a touchdown. So I do believe he's going to have a great impact on this team's special teams. And I think he could make the Pro Bowl as a kick returner. We'll see. And he could have an amazing year. Obviously, he's a wide receiver, but their wide receivers are stacked. And I'll talk about that after their schedule. So, this team's schedule, they did come in 4th place in the NFC West last year. This team came in last place, obviously because the 49ers just absolutely came out of nowhere, had a great season. Seattle also did have a really good season. And the Los Angeles Rams, who were in the Super Bowl the year before, they had a decently good season, but wasn't what they wanted. They still had, all those 3 teams had winning records. And this team, unfortunately, had a losing record, not the best they wanted. But this team did come in 4th place, and that means they will have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL next season. So like I said before, since this team did come in 4th place in their division, they do play the rest of the 4th place teams in the remaining NFC divisions that they don't play. So this year they are playing the NFC East, which is mighty fortunate. But that also means they play the last place NFC North team, which I believe is the Detroit Lions, and the last place NFC South team, which is, I believe, the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, I think the Panthers, they do play this game at Carolina. I think the Panthers aren't going to be good, so that's a fortunate matchup, and they play the Lions at home. And I believe the Lions also are going to be one of those underdog teams, so we'll see, but it is Arizona, which gives, the Cardinals the advantage and most likely the win in this game. But more about their schedule. They play, of course, the NFC East, which I believe is going to be the worst division in the NFL next season. This division, of course, consists of the Dallas Cowboys, which they play on the road, the Philadelphia Eagles, which they play at home. They play the Washington Redskins at home, and they play the New York Giants on the road. So, very favorable matchups there. Maybe not the Dallas game, because, the Cowboys could be good, not really. And the Dallas game is in the middle of the season, so they could have enough, skill at this point in the season to win those games. So they are fortunate with the Eagles at home because they could be really good. And I believe this team could go 4-0 against NFC East, like no joke. It could go 3-1, which I think most likely will happen. But 4-0 sounds like a reasonable, prediction right there. But they also do play the AFC East. You already know that consists of the Patriots, which I do believe is on the road in New England. They play the Buffalo Bills, which is at home, the Miami Dolphins, which is at home, and the New York Jets, which is on the road. So obviously, I don't know if the Patriots are going to be good next season, but that game is later in the season, around like week 11, 12. So, the Patriots could have their issues gathered up at that time. And, they do play the Bills at home, which is a couple weeks before the Patriots game. They could win that game easily. And the Jets on the road, like week 5 of the NFL season. So that could be, a favorable matchup for the Cardinals because the Jets could be disbobbled at that point in time. We'll see. And I don't think the Jets are going to have all their stuff together. So there are a lot of favorable matchups in this schedule. But the weak spot, of course, being their division. Their division is very good. It is one of the best divisions I've ever seen in my life. So obviously, we have 2 Super Bowl teams about back-to-back years, the 49ers and the Rams. And I don't think any of those teams are going to win the Super Bowl. But besides that, they have to play the 49ers twice a season, the Seattle Seahawks, which I believe are going to be really good, twice a season, and the Los Angeles Rams, twice a season. So, they do start off the season week 1 in San Francisco, so that's very unfortunate for them. But that also does mean they will play the 49ers week 16 of the season at home, and they could have all their stuff together at that point, get a 1-1 record against them. We'll see. I do believe they could easily 2-0 the Rams, and they could possibly 2-0 the Seahawks because they don't play bad against the Seahawks. They absolutely destroyed them in Seattle last year, and that was later in the season, showing that this team is legit against their divisional matchups. So at any of these games, they play 6 divisional games combined. I believe this team could go 4-2, maybe 5-1 if they're very fortunate. But this also does mean they could go 3-3 or 2-4. But I do believe this team could go 5-1, 4-2, and have a very fortunate division record. But now that we know about, this team's very fortunate schedule, unfortunate division, of course, let's talk about their offense. So, as many of you know, the Arizona Cardinals traded for Kenyan Drake from the Miami Dolphins very late in the season, and that pickup made an immediate impact on this team's offense. Very, very great and very positive impact for this team. Obviously, I'm going to read some of these scores at the end of the season. So they played December 1st against the Rams at home. I don't believe they had Kenyan Drake in this matchup, and they did lose a very bad game against the Rams at home by 34-7. But the following week, I think they might have had Kenyan Drake. I'm not sure, but they did play the Pittsburgh Steelers at home, and they did lose by 6 points, 23-17. But as you know, the Steelers' defense is very, very, very good, and they absolutely countered Kyler Murray in this game. The sacks, the interceptions, everything. Steelers did have a very lucky punt return, but it's whatever. So they could have won that game, but the following week, they played another home game once again against the Cleveland Browns. Everyone thought the Browns was going to win this game, but they get destroyed 24-38, ultimately ending the Cleveland Browns' playoff hopes. And this is a game where I do believe Kenyan Drake just popped off. I think he might have had 5 touchdowns in this game. It was just a spectacular performance, and I do expect the talent and the performance last year to rub off on him once again. In the following week, they went to Seattle with all that burning power from last week, and they beat the Seahawks 27-13, showing that their defense is legit against good teams on the road, and their offense just absolutely dumped on a very good Seattle defense. In the last game of the season on the road once again, they had a very good matchup, I guess, 24-31, but they did lose against the Rams. But the Cardinals did play a good game, and I guess you can say this game didn't really matter, but it was in LA. So as you can see, this Kenyan Drake trade had a very, very great impact on this team's offense at the end of the season. In the beginning of the season, it wasn't really lights out. It wasn't as good as it was now. In the running game, without David Johnson anymore, Kenyan Drake is going to be really good next year, which I believe is going to have a great impact on this team's offense. But we have to point out the obvious. We already know. The Arizona Cardinals traded for DeAndre Hopkins, basically scamming the Houston Texans with a trade, giving them injured David Johnson for, in my opinion, the best wide receiver in the NFL. I do believe Hopkins is going to have another great season. With Kyler Murray as a sophomore in the NFL, he's also going to have a step up from last year's season. Obviously, Hopkins is going to have a great impact on Kyler Murray, making him an overall better QB, and we will see this, no doubt about it, next year. And you already know, Larry Fitzgerald, DeAndre Hopkins, most legendary wide receiver combo I've seen in a while. So you already know, with the addition of Christian Kirk, of course, that all these wide receivers on this team, it's just going to be lights out. This offense is going to be legit. It's going to be a contender. And Kyler Murray, he's the key to putting it all together. He has to have a great year and make great plays with great wide receivers that will improvise and help him improve as a QB. And I do believe Kyler Murray is going to have a Super Bowl run. But we have to point out the flaws in this team. Obviously, the flaw in this team is their offensive line. So it's not the fact that the offensive line can't make plays. I believe it can. It made really great plays for Kenyan Drake at the end of the season, but the protection of the QB was so bad last season that it made Kyler Murray the third most sacked quarterback in the NFL, behind Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson. And honestly, these two teams did have trouble. The Texans and the Seahawks did have trouble in the playoffs because of their offensive lines. We saw that the Kansas City Chiefs just dominated the Texans at the end of that game in Kansas City. And the Bills in the first half of that playoff game dominated Deshaun Watson. But Deshaun Watson did make really great plays to win that game. And Kyler Murray is not bigger than Deshaun Watson, but I guess you can say he has the speed. It is not hard to sack Kyler Murray, and if their offensive line does not get help next year, then he is going to have another sack-full year. This could lead to many, many problems, but besides that, I do believe that this offense is going to compensate for the sacks. It's going to give Kyler Murray less time to throw the football, in the good way, of course, meaning he has two wide receivers that will be open or make great plays. So Kyler Murray won't have to stand in the pocket as long as he did last season. He'll have less time to throw the football, and that's a good thing once again. So it will benefit Kyler Murray. I don't think he's going to get sacked as much, but They were hoping to draft an offensive tackle in the first round, but they had Isaiah Simmons in their clutch, and why wouldn't you draft him? It's a steal of the draft. So this team's defense is going to look a lot better. This team's offense is going to look a lot better. You already know this team is a Super Bowl contender. Do not sleep on the Arizona Cardinals next season. Well, that is it. YouTube, thanks for watching. We just reached 200 subscribers today, and I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. And please hit that subscribe button, click that bell for more notifications. We appreciate all the support, the views, everything. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Adios.